What is happening, everybody? My name is Julius.
And I'm Angel.
Hello, Angel. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, Julius. We're here to
hmm
talk about Spider-Man 1 through 3. It's going to be insane. This is the journey to Spider-Man No Way Home. It was such a great idea pitched by you. We're going to have so many great videos with great guests. And this is just going to be special content for all of our listeners.
Yes, this is a series made specifically for the anticipation for Spider-Man No Way Home. We're all mega excited. Angel got all our tickets for that day. It's 40 seats reserved for our party. First of all, before we get into the discussions, Angel, are you selling any of these tickets?
No, no. But when I announced that I was getting that many tickets, it's so funny the reception that we got. Everybody really did think that I was selling those tickets, but no. If I was selling those tickets, why would I make a video saying that I got 38 tickets? Like, no.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just the excitement of taking that many people. It's just when you know people that are just as passionate as you are when it comes to this stuff, it's easy to make friends. You know what I mean?
of
We all,
course.
we're all friends here.
Of course, except for those jerks who think you sell the tickets. And also, we're going to have proof of our party of people at night. Pictures will
Right.
be taken, videos will be taken, and then you'll get the comments, oh, they probably paid those guys for the photos. Shut up. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, please. But here we are. We're ready to talk about all the Spider-Man films in the franchise. We do, like Angel said, have a lot of great guests. I'm really excited for you guys to see who we're going to be talking to. I will not be spoiling, but just know that Angel and I are going to cover the first three. It was either going to be him and I starting it off, or we weren't going to be doing this because Angel is one of the biggest Spider-Man fans I know. And he spent over, or no, it was Robert who spent over $500 on this film. And we get passionate when we talk about Spider-Man.
It's why we're here today.
Mm-hmm.
It's why we're here. It's why we're still going. It's why we keep our heads up. It's why it's worth spending almost $600.
Yeah.
Just the mention of Tobey Maguire himself is worth nearly $1,000.
Exactly. We are contributing to the crashing of websites, the box office smashing. We're ensuring this movie is a hit. You know what I mean? So let's get started. Let's not waste any more time. So the first movie, I mean, come on, the first movie we're going to be talking about, guys, it's very simple. It's Spider-Man from 2002, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Willem Dafoe, and many, many more. Angel, before we talk about the film itself, how good it is, what's in it, what it's about, even. We are part of the generation that grew up with watching Spider-Man.
Mhm.
The generation before us, many generations before us, grew up reading Spider-Man. So, what do you think this does to fandom? Does it put a perspective on the character in our head that's drastically different, or do you think no matter what, if the Spider-Man story is good, with whatever version, it will resonate?
I think it just showcases the power of movies themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man has been around since what, the 60s?
Yes.
And it didn't take until 2002 for him to be truly a global phenomenon across the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like movies really they're really powerful. They really have more of an effect than any other medium, in my opinion, to really shape who we are as people and to really give us an idea of what it means to be human in these stories, even in these larger than life stories. That's what I think that the impact of that movie coming in during that time had on everybody. Everybody reading it was so excited, and to see a portrayal that was such a love letter to the comic character itself, for people who weren't even into comics to fall in love with superheroes. I mean, it just goes to show that this was another movie that was a landmark for this genre. Very similar to Christopher Reeve's Superman and Michael Keaton's Batman. This was another one of those, and Blade as well. This was another
Yeah,
one of
and
those movies
X-Men.
that made a statement saying, "We're not here to play. We're here to change the world."
Yeah, and Spider-Man is definitely one that kind of did it without it has such insane cultural relevance right when it comes out, right? Because there are things in this first film that are instantly iconic. If we're just talking about visuals, imagery, there's a lot that has been taken from it and has been referenced within the rest of pop culture. One of the biggest, probably the biggest example is the line, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
You hear that everywhere in culture. I heard it in my class a couple days ago.
Right.
It was the final lecture of a class that I was taking, and the teacher included that ideology, that philosophy in the like the goodbye guys, with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. And that wasn't even the original line in the Spider-Man comics.
It's there must also come great responsibility.
That movie is so powerful that it kind of retcons the way that they utilize Spider-Man's main catchphrase. In the comics, it's not Uncle Ben who says it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Peter.
It's not even the line. It's Peter as the narrator, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way the movie redistributes that message through Uncle Ben, it defined the character forever. Defined him forever. Because of the visual language of movies and the thematic power of movies itself. And not only that, but even with every interpretation after, there is love to Tobey's Spider-Man, because he's not somebody that plays Spider-Man. He is Spider-Man. You see love for him in Spectacular Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
You see love for him in Spider-Man PS4 during the train sequence that Yuri Spider-Man does. You see love for him in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is arguably the greatest portrayal of this character since 2002. He's the guy. He's the one. He is Spider-Man.
And another example I would like to bring up to your lineup is in my favorite run of Ultimate Spider-Man, of Spider-Man is Ultimate Spider-Man, the comic book. There is a segment of the storyline, the ever current storyline of that book, where they're making a movie about Spider-Man. Peter Parker is angry about it. They're filming in New York. He goes to the set. Tobey Maguire's there. Sam Raimi's there. Avi Arad's there. And he's just yelling at them. There's this great panel where Tobey's on the wall. He has the ropes on him and everything. He's like, man, I can't see out of this mask. I can't. and then the real Spider-Man shows up. It's like, you suck, man. You just suck. It's my favorite thing ever. But you're right in that this is a very iconic figure. Obviously there were criticisms from older fans when this came out. He doesn't make enough jokes. He's this, he's that. But that all being said, he's the one people are waiting for in a week.
Yeah, he's the reason why this movie is going to make $600 million opening during a pandemic. I guarantee you, he's not the only one that
right.
But he is a main factor as to why.
He's a big one.
If anything, he's a third of the reason, which is more than enough. That is insane. That amount of money is insane.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's talk about his movie now. So we have to start with the vision of this film, right? We have to start with the director, and the director is Sam Raimi. He's chosen. And Sam Raimi was a horror guy. He is famously known for Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, and Army of Darkness, and also other films like was it The Phantom he also did?
I just recognized Drag Me to Hell. Contemporary one.
And he did another one with Liam Neeson in the 90s. Darkman. Okay, I was thinking that. All right, Darkman, another one. And he's done plenty of films ever since. Oz the Great and Powerful. He's going to be doing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Perfect choice, by the way. But he's known more for horror and genre film making, and working with Bruce Campbell and everything. What do you think was the reasoning behind getting Sam Raimi as director on Sony's part? And Columbia's part.
I think it was probably just the pitch. There's a screen test of Tobey Maguire in the part, and he's fighting these guys in a dark alley and stuff like that. They're basically recreating the tone and vibe of what they're going for. Yeah. And it just seemed like the perfect pitch, I think. I think with his great tendencies as a director, getting great performances, having a really great eye for not just visuals but editing as well.
Yes.
I think it just fit. It was the perfect mold for a live action comic book movie that really felt distinct. It out of all the superhero movies that we got before Spider-Man, Spider-Man was the one that I think truly meshed reality with fantasy in the most perfect way.
Yeah, I agree. Because when you look at him in that suit, there's nothing campy about it in the way that
Mm-mm.
there is with someone like Adam West, right? And we're talking
Yeah.
about two suits, two costumes that are just as kind of ridiculous as each other,
Hmm.
especially Spider-Man. Spider-Man has a whole full body suit. He wears the crazy mask and everything. It's very bright and very colorful. But when you see it when you see it in the context of Sam Raimi, it is completely believable. You completely get it. You're on board. We were watching these films the other night. We watched 1 and 2, and we are screaming throughout the whole screening. And I think it's because we completely buy the world, which is so
Of course.
important.
Of course. I'm telling you, I really do think, like Kevin Feige says, Richard Donner's Superman is the blueprint for the MCU. I think that it's the blueprint for every comic book movie that wants
Mhm.
to be successful, not just commercially, but spiritually. When you watch the first Spider-Man and you have those scenes where he's running and he's ripping his chest open like Superman, it's that part of the fantasy that we buy into, right? Because we love comic books. But Sam Raimi does a beautiful job of establishing real world stakes. And
Yeah.
so when he combines the both, it's like, yes, like we are in the comic book movie itself, and we just love to be inspired.
Yeah, and also they make little reference to Superman, So obviously Christopher Reeve's take and his inspiration is inspiration for everyone else. And it's interesting that you brought up stakes because the main theme of this film is responsibility.
Mhm.
It's not a conventional superhero film when you really look at it. It's all about responsibility and sacrifice because he saves the day, but he doesn't get what he wants by the end of
Mhm.
this film. He has to sacrifice heavily because that's what his uncle did. His uncle unwillingly and unknowingly put his life on the line so Peter could, you know, pursue the wrestling thing. And look what happened.
Yep.
So this is all about Peter kind of making amends for that guilt. And it's powerful because it's so different. A lot of comic book movies, not just the new Spider-Man movies, but a lot of films don't deal with bittersweet endings in the way that this does.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think it's every time I watch it, like I get more chills every time I hear the lines and the message. There's more emphasis on the message every time I rewatch it. I really love when Uncle Ben tells him, like, you have a gift. Like, you have a gift. Can you imagine if this gift was given to somebody like Norman Osborn? What
Mm-hmm.
he would do with it, like um, the power he can use to destroy New York. Like, you have a gift, and it is your responsibility to be able to utilize it in the best way that you possibly can. And it maybe it doesn't mean saving the world all the time. Maybe it means restraining yourself from truly hurting somebody like Flash Thompson. You know, if it really hit me this time when he says, just because you can beat him up, it doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, it doesn't give you
You
the
know?
right to, right?
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
same thing applies for how he feels about Mary Jane. Just because you can be with her, it doesn't mean it's probably the safest or smartest thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to be willing to sacrifice with this gift because that's the only way you can be the best possible hero.
Yeah. And that it just hit differently this time watching it. Maybe it's because I haven't really watched. Well, I watched these films a couple months ago. What am I talking about? But something about it. Maybe it's because of the environment.
no, no, I'm telling you, watching these movies in a theater room is very different.
Yes.
Everything's very different. You catch on to every word, you catch on to every musical cue. It feels larger than life because of the TV. You're truly sucked into this movie, and everything hits you the way that it should be when you're watching it properly.
Yeah, I agree. So this movie is an origin story, obviously. It's about the birth of Spider-Man. We didn't have multiple films about Spider-Man beforehand, so this had to lay the groundwork. And when it comes to the origin, obviously we all know he's a nerd. He doesn't get the girls and everything. He's a loner. He hangs out with the soy boy Harry Osborn, and he one day gets bit by the spider, which gives him his powers. And he learns how to crawl. He learns how to do this. He learns how to do that. He gets into a wrestling ring to make some money, and in that, he lets the burglar go who kills his Uncle Ben. And that's how he becomes Spider-Man. So tell the viewers, the listeners, how this origin shaped Spider-Man for you.
For me, it's the greatest origin story of all time. For me, it's his trauma that truly fuels his heroism. It's that constant reminder of his mistake that he's willing to never make again. And that to me is just such a that to me is like a hero for real. Like it hurts him so much that he let his Uncle Ben die.
Yeah.
But again, it's that reminder, that love that he has for his uncle, that he wants to treat everybody in the best way possible and save as many lives as he can. And I think it's just the story of change and maturity, and how father figures like Norman and Uncle Ben, how different father figures can truly shape you in different ways. With Norman Osborn, he's somebody that really prioritizes ego versus the nature of greater good. Uncle Ben is all about the greater good. And when he follows his heart and remembers who his true father is, that's when he decides to keep Uncle Ben's memory alive through his actions.
Yeah, one thing about the origin, specifically the relationship between him and Uncle Ben, that I like, the idea of fatherhood. They kind of brush and to the side where his real parents are. You know what I mean? Later films would obviously get more into this, but this movie didn't try to waste time like that and said, yeah, the parents are gone. My parents are Uncle Ben and Aunt May, right? I had a father. His name was Ben Parker, right? And it really is, it kind of fills that space where in other films, obviously, they felt, okay, this would be good to see where did the dad go? You know what I mean? And in this film, I like that they just, Uncle Ben is the dad, because sometimes we're left, we don't know what really happened in our past, so right. we take what we have and utilize it the best way. But here Peter he still lost Uncle Ben. I think during the screening, it was Robert's girlfriend Cecilia who mentioned, could you imagine saying what Peter did, the last words Peter said to Uncle Ben, and that's the last thing you said? Because he said some pretty awful things.
Yeah, stop pretending to be my dad.
Yeah, right. And it hit a different way this time, because that's the last thing he's ever going to say to him.
It hurts, and it'll always stay with him, and that'll always be the reality, know. But what Aunt May tells him is reassuring, that even with that nasty behavior towards his Uncle Ben before his death, Uncle Ben always loved him, and he always will, no matter what. Even after that nasty argument, he loves him. He was there for him still. He could have just left him and gone home. He could have neglected him his whole life, like Norman did to Harry. But look at how Harry responds to his own father's death later down the line. It's a difference in character for sure, especially between the father figures. Uncle Ben was always there for him, and his gift was the ability to listen and to guide his son to be a better person. Norman was all about power and greed and money and himself, and was never there for Harry, which is why Harry turned out to be the way that he was. Somebody who only cared about work, somebody who didn't really care about his relationship or allowing it to flourish, somebody who, disrespected Mary Jane and really cared about his father's opinion versus what the person he supposedly loved.
Right. Someone who's very ineffectual, and we'll talk about those characters later, because I'm very excited to get into them. But the first character we have to talk about, the one, as we were calling him the other night, Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, as Peter Parker. So this first film, I had never thought much of in the past. I liked it, I didn't watch it as much as the second film. Upon rewatch, especially this most recent rewatch, man, he's got it down, man. He's got it down. Like honestly, he's got the awkward nerd down. He's got the jokes down. Some of the jokes he told were charming, and I was like, oh, what man? I forgot about that one. You know, I thought he really got it really down perfectly. For me, my favorite version of Peter Parker in film is the Peter B. Parker from Spider-Verse. That for me is the one. But Tobey, I mean, you understand why he's called the GOAT when you watch these films, honestly, man. So obviously, Angel, in the past, you've talked about how if you've met if you would have met Tobey Maguire, you would be too scared. So explain to the audience why that is, and if that's still the case.
Well, because there's this universal belief that you never meet your heroes, that they'll disappoint you, you know. And I don't know. The thing is, like, if I met him, I've said before that I feel like I would tackle him and just hug him and just because for me, Tobey Maguire, he will always be my hero.
Mhm.
He is my hero. He really did shape who I am. Like he really shaped the way that I look at the world and the way that I treat others and how I have this um, innate feeling to save other people. Like I feel like I can be close to a superhero because of these movies.
Yeah.
Because of him, and yeah, for sure, without a doubt, for me, he's always been the best one. I don't think anyone will ever be able to top him forever. Like he really is the definitive version of Spider-Man from the get-go. You watch the beginning of the movie and it's bad when others outcast you, but even when nerd girls like in the movie don't want him to sit next to him,
Don't even think about it.
it's really bad. It's
That's
really
bad.
bad. One shot really stood out to me this rewatch, and I turned over to you and I was like, even the close-up shot on his eyes, like
Yeah.
his eyebrows aren't even, he doesn't have good upkeeping on his eyebrows and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's little things like that, little nuances of the character that really just, yes, he is that character. I believe him um to be a loner and somebody who you wouldn't even think of could swing across New York and save people from falling buildings and fires and stuff like that. But of course, when the change happens, that's when I think the most magic occurs. And that jump is what makes it so fantastic.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you brought up the other night that I was kind of focused on was his physical appearance. He's not the best looking guy. At least at the beginning, he's not the best looking guy because they make him look not great. They make him look kind of pasty and weak and sickly and everything. Like you said with the eyebrows and all that. He's hunched over a lot of the time, and I appreciate those touches because I think it was Gavin, the director of the fan film Spider-Man Lotus, who brought up in the interview we did with him. He brought
Mhm.
up how to depict a quote unquote loser, in the 60s versus how the Andrew Garfield did it versus Tom Holland. And now we look at Tobey, early 2000s. That's pretty much the stereotype that we would see back then. 30-year-old men as teenagers in movies. So yeah, I think the physical lends itself heavily to what buys us into his Peter.
Definitely.
Yeah, obviously the love interest in this, the woman that Peter's pining over in this is Mary Jane Watson. The most famous uh, love handle for Spider-Man, and it is played by Kirsten Dunst. I've always called her Kristen, but her name is Kirsten Dunst. And here she is. She's not a supermodel. She wants to be an actress. She's kind of normal looking girl, but very, very beautiful. Just not like the supermodel that everyone's used to from the comics. Did you think this was a more grounded take on Mary Jane versus the comics, which really kind of sex her up?
For me, I just felt like this was a very human look at a real
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and
Yeah.
and I know there's a lot of criticism towards her Mary Jane, but I love it. Their connection, their chemistry is like fireworks. Honestly, I think it's the reason why we are riding with him until the very end, and hopefully he gets the girl, and hopefully she gets the man of her dreams, the man that she deserves. And that's what we're rooting for. And when that doesn't happen at the end of the first one, and it's eluded in part two, and things start working out, it's why we are jumping out of our seats, because that relationship works. That
Mhm.
relationship feels real. These two people feel like they really love each other.
They're definitely attracted to each other.
Some of my favorite
Yeah.
scenes in Spider-Man are not just the swinging ones, but like the scenes in the hospital when they're there for Aunt May and they're just talking, and he shares his love for her. It's undeniable, and I don't know, it makes me giddy with joy, and it makes me believe in love again.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I appreciate the fact that they did go with more of in terms of her wanting to be the star in the spotlight in the history of Mary Jane in comics. Like, she's had drug addiction, she's been a supermodel, she's been an actress, she's been all over the place, and I like here they kind of bring it down back to earth. She's a simple girl who gets with some douchebags at times, but she wants to be an actress because it's escape from her real life at home.
Right.
She has an abusive relationship with her parents and everything. And I think a lot of those criticisms you brought up are more for the later films.
Mhm.
She's cool here. She's cool. Be a little flirty with Peter. But in the later films, which we will talk about, that's when I think the criticisms are justified.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I do like Kirsten Dunst in the role, and they have remarkable chemistry
Yeah.
in that backyard. Every time is you
And
want it,
magic.
you
It's
want to
movie
be
magic.
there. You want to be
Yeah.
there.
It's movie magic. It's literally what made me believe in love.
Hmm.
Really. It made me believe in love for sure. Like, a lot of people, they look at The Notebook and they go, that movie made me believe in love. And it did for me too when I was older. But Spider-Man was that movie that was like, I think I know what love will feel like. It'll feel
Yeah.
something like that, like how it's making me feel watching it.
It's interesting. This is a little off topic. I don't want to spend too much time on this, especially because I'm not into celebrity gossip. But you brought up the chemistry between Tobey and Kirsten.
Mhm.
It's definitely there. Obviously, lately it's been a big thing that Zendaya and Tom Holland are, doing their thing. How much of that real relationship do you think is going to be transferred into this new film?
I hope they put everything into it.
Hmm.
Honestly, I think when it comes to intimacy on screen, it has to be real. To be honest, I
Hmm.
really feel like it has to be real. I mean, you have to be you have to be, I guess, a legend, a Daniel Day Lewis, to be really intimate with somebody on screen, and then
There's
you guys,
nothing there.
there's there's absolutely nothing after. Let's go
Or
get lunch. We're good friends.
Dirty Dancing, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, I don't know. Like, for I think that's why maybe a lot of relationships don't work out when they're actors and actresses, because it's hard to not build that real connection that you want for a movie. Because when you think about it, movies are forever. And if
Hmm.
it looks fake, if it doesn't look like you two really have good chemistry, you're gonna get criticized for it, and the movie's gonna do worse. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping if they are in a relationship, I'm happy for them, and I hope that they can bring their real feelings to the big screen, because it'll be beneficial for the story.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to a much more interesting part of the film, which is the probably one of the most complex characters in the movie, which is Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. Now, first of all, Angel, I want you to try to do your best Green Goblin laugh right now. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh my god. Yeah, I'm something of a scientist myself. Yeah, no, so this for me is probably one of the most complex characters in the film. You never know kind of what he's thinking. It's an interesting balancing act of um everything being on his face, but you cannot trust it, because the dude is losing his mind throughout the whole film. What do you think about first this casting, and second the delivery?
The casting is it's a dream. As fans of comic book movies, we want the best actors for these roles, and Willem Dafoe is definitely one of the best actors to play a comic book character. I think he's perfect as Green Goblin. He's one of my favorite villains on screen. I think what he does
Mm.
the whole Jekyll and Hyde thing with Green Goblin is ingenious. I think he's having such a blast, and we're right there with him. And yeah, the line delivery is perfect. I think his motivation is wonderful, even when it gets tarnished by insanity.
Yeah.
Once it gets into insanity, he just becomes a threat, a danger, presence who's there to attack the heart of our hero, and we truly fear him. And I think also the lines of dialogue that he has rings true in some cases, especially when he says, you know, the people, they want somebody to fall, they want somebody to put all the blame on. It's true when it comes to commentary regarding like social media or news and what these corporations send out to the public and how they want society to perceive these larger than life characters. But
Yeah.
Spider-Man, despite all that, despite all the turmoil he suffers, he still stands up, and he stands up to the point where even the New York citizens who are against him, they join his side in the end. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, and one of the most powerful moments of the film. You know, you mess with Spidey, you mess with New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a chilling moment.
And I also love that even post 9/11, we had a main villain that, you know, was throwing green goblin bombs all over the place and stuff like that. You know, I'm sure it was a huge risk to put this out and stuff like that. But honestly, they didn't shy away from the reality of these kinds of monsters that exist in our world. And it's all the more important to see these heroes rise to the occasion and come together and take out people like Green Goblin.
Yeah, man. You know, that's a great point. This is a really ballsy move to keep going. Like he's a terrorist. He's a terrorist in the film. That's pretty much, you know, people say that Dark Knight was one of the first movies to deal with like the 9/11 situation. I don't know, man. Spider-Man kind of dealt with it. He's literally throwing bombs at buildings, causing havoc in the streets.
Yeah.
You know, laughing about it. Like,
yeah, taking place in New York, you know, like I wonder what it was like, you know, to watch that during that time.
It was probably, it was probably really uncomfortable for people. But then when you see that scene where it's the people of New York, you know, throwing their thing, it was probably like a huge relief.
Yeah.
And when he gets whooped by Spider, I mean, you saw how we were reacting,
right?
You know, and we're from LA. We're not New Yorkers at all.
Yeah.
That theater must have dipped out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like yeah.
Man, what an experience it would be. You know, imagine we figure out time travel and stuff like that to go to a theater, you know, during that time.
That's the first place you're going to.
Right?
Yeah. Well, he's the ultimate enemy for Spider-Man. The Green Goblin is the ultimate enemy, without a doubt. I love Dr. Octopus. For me, he's on the same level for me because I love him so much. But it's without a doubt, Green Goblin is the one. Yep. It's cemented in this film that the presence of the Goblin, of Norman Osborn as the Green Goblin, is felt through the whole trilogy. It's brought back now to No Way Home, and he's probably the one that everyone is excited to see back, along with, you know, if we're talking about villains mainly.
It's unbelievable that he's coming back, Julius.
It really is. It really is, man. And he mentioned in a recent interview with Alfred Molina and Jamie Foxx, the villain panel, as it were. He mentioned that, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see this?
I did see this.
Okay, so he mentions that Green Goblin has a case to state.
He has a case to state.
He has a case to state. All right. So what do you think this case is?
I feel like if he were to make a case to state, if we're talking about multiverse, I don't even know if this Green Goblin is the same one from Tobey's. You know, how does he survive the blade to the groin? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
That moment when he says, "Oh," a little portal.
Like within that moment, there's a theory that apparently some of the villains get transported to the MCU before they die, and so with that theory going in, the only place that would make sense for his version of Green Goblin to get transported to the MCU, the only place that would make sense is right after the encounter with Spider-Man in the burning building. Remember when it transitions, he's like, "Nobody says no to me." And then it transitions from the heat to him in the elevator, and he's like, all loopy.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be the only place that makes sense for Doctor Strange to pull him out from that world and put him in the MCU and then put him back after everything. But honestly, I don't think I would like that. So I think this might be a different
A variant.
a variant. This is going to be
Right.
a different Green Goblin. He's the
Yeah.
only one that we don't know his backstory until it's revealed in the movie.
Right.
So the only thing that I think would be like powerful would in his world, what if his son dies? What if Peter is
Right.
the reason that Harry Osborn dies and Norman is like, I hate Spider-Man forever.
And the role
that is how I see it.
Yeah, and the roles are reversed of
Right.
for in the trilogy it was Harry who wanted revenge for his father's death.
Right.
And now it's Norman who wants revenge for his son's death. Right.
Right.
I've heard a couple different theories of myself of some of these Spider-Man or some of these villains have killed Spider-Man in their world. I don't know what the case is. I've heard that I'm interested in what it is. I'm interested because there's obviously conflict of sending these people back. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know what it is, and I don't want to know until we watch the movie, because that to me is like a main thing. Like, how are they back? What is going on? How are they going to return? Who is this Green Goblin? What is going on with him? Is he the hero of his universe? Was Harry a good Green Goblin and Spider-Man a bad villain in that universe or something like that? Like, what is going on?
Yeah. I don't know, but the foe.
But he has a case to state this time. It's personal. I love what Jamie said about his Green Goblin. It's personal what he wants.
Yeah.
It's not coming for power or for ego anymore. This time, it's personal.
Yeah, no, this time Spider-Man messed up. Tom doesn't even know how he messed up yet.
Yeah. If it's personal, it seems like it'll be Harry. Something with Harry.
Yeah. No, shit. We ain't ready. I mean, the variant theory would make sense considering that this time Jamie Foxx is yellow instead of blue. And he was damn happy about that also.
Yeah.
In that interview.
It seems like if you watch the trailer, it seems like Electro is blue, but then he gets the arc reactor and then turns yellow.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
dude. Let's not. Maybe you shouldn't say that out loud. Because I mean, Jamie Foxx. I mean, he made a point in that interview to say, "Yeah, man, this time I'm not blue." Fuck that. I think he said that also. He just off mic. He said that. Okay, so obviously we talked about the best parts of the film. I want to talk about real quick Danny Elfman's theme.
Yes.
Is this the ultimate representation for heroism in superhero films?
It is. It is. It truly is. For me, Danny Elfman's score for Spider-Man is the greatest theme ever made in history. In history, that goes from Beethoven's time to now. Like that, it is.
You deaf motherfucker!
It is the greatest piece of music ever in my eyes, in my ears.
Oh, but well, that's fair, man. When we were hearing it with those speakers behind us.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like, and that's the thing too. Like, if we hear that piece of music in No Way Home, look.
Excuse me. When you say it, you should say when.
When, yeah. When we hear it, and here's the thing, like, I could defend that piece of music all day, every day, but everybody's gonna understand what I'm talking about, and really pay attention, everyone. When you're in your theater and that piece of music starts playing, the screams you're gonna hear are unlike anything you've ever heard before. I promise. Even say you're around, I don't know, Six Flags or something. The screams you're gonna hear are unlike anything. More than Thor showing up, more than Cap lifting the hammer. It's times 30. Okay,
it's different. I
promise.
It's way different this time. No, it's not. So Danny Elfman, obviously the composer of the Batman theme, former member of Oingo Boingo, works on all of Tim Burton's stuff. Partially did some stuff for Joss Whedon. Spider-Man is probably his most recognizable theme. It's his best theme. I love the Batman theme that he did, but this is the one for sure. This is the one that goes down in history. It has the hero factor. It has the tragedy to it. It has the creepy element to it. It has everything you could want from a theme for a hero.
It has every emotion and theme that they mentioned in the movie.
Yeah.
Love, responsibility, courage, solidarity.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
All right, let's move on. So, as the first theatrical adaptation of this character, this set the groundwork for a whole generation. What specifically in the first film stands out as definitive for Spider-Man to you, Angel?
I think for me, what stands out the most is honestly the feeling of wonder first. You know, when he starts to climb that wall, it makes me want to climb walls. You know, when he gets bit by that spider,
I can fly.
It makes me want to get bit by that spider. And the craziest thing about it too is that spiders is actually one of my biggest fears. You know, and when I watch the movie, all those fears go away, which is so crazy. There has to be like a study on that or something. Like, how can people who love Spider-Man still be afraid of spiders? You know, but that's me. That's just who I am. Him jumping from building to building, him swinging, him pursuing the love of his life while simultaneously saving half of New York. It's that to me is what stands out. Is him always doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's all you can say.
Even if it means sacrificing his own dreams, you know, that to me is what stands out.
I said that's all you could say, and then you added more. What the hell? How am I supposed to follow that? So yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I think Sam Raimi these are Sam Raimi films. Before being Spider-Man films, these are Sam Raimi films, and they show off his technique. They show off everything he's learned as a director at that point, everything he wants to do. I mean, they're pushing the technology in a huge way in these films, in a way that other movies are still catching up to. Some Marvel films are still catching up to. You know what I mean? It's a perfect blend of the realism, the comic book, the love, the hope, and the tragedy of Spider-Man. Again, I said at the beginning of this, I didn't think much of this film. It's one of the best superhero films of all time.
Yeah.
One of the most defining, one of the most inspirational ones. This is a different animal.
And this Spider-Man caught a body that same night for his Uncle Ben. Can't say the same for Andrew or Tom's.
Yeah.
This dude is just built different, baby.
What even happened with that, man? What even happened with that? I remember the Amazing Spider-Man game. The second game was about him finding the killer of Uncle Ben, and then Carnage was included somehow. It's like, what the fuck?
Wow. Yeah.
On here?
I just really love that he was so close to killing his Uncle Ben's killer. You know, but again, in that moment, when he has those flashbacks of his Uncle Ben holding his dying hand in his hand, he had the strength to restrain himself from truly killing him.
Yeah, and you would think that they would go ahead with that, especially based on that test footage, which is much darker. He's got his shirt off. There's cursing in it, you know, and he's really messing people up. There's this great comment I read on YouTube. It's on YouTube, and the comment said, "I was bitten by a radioactive Bruce Lee," because he looks like Bruce Lee in that, and he's chopping fools down.
He really does.
Yeah,
he really does, and that's what I love about that test footage too. Is that it has the grit of Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
but still, what was wonderful about Bruce Lee's characters on film was that really he was a hero in every one of those movies.
Yeah, and then O'Hara came in the picture, and O'Hara got snapped in half. He got destroyed, man. All right. That's enough of the first Spider-Man film. We can talk about it all night.
We really can. We truly can. Like, that's the thing. Like, we've seen it how many times, Julius?
Too many.
And we've talked about it so many times, but again, it's just one of those movies. It's just it's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Thank you, Santa. Thank you. Sam Raimi in a Santa outfit. Let's do it. Or Bruce Campbell. It also has Bruce Campbell in it. We have to mention that. We're going to mention Bruce.
The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, that sucks. Best line ever. We're going to mention Bruce Campbell in each discussion.